"Are you the boss of this place?" Jin-Woo muttered, his voice echoing in the cavernous chamber. He stood before a monstrous creature, the swamp ruler, ReAwakening, its blue scales shimmering ominously in the dim light. Its reputation preceded it, a creature whose defenses were legendary, impervious to both sword and fist. He knew he needed a strategy, a swift, powerful attack that could bypass ReAwakening's impenetrable armor and weaken its defenses. He racked his brain, searching for a solution, the weight of his past failures pressing down on him. He remembered the sting of being labeled the world's weakest hunter, the derisive whispers that followed him like a shadow. He yearned to shed that label, to prove his worth, not just to others, but to himself. He'd heard the recent rumors, the whispers of a hunter who was defying expectations, making even the most challenging hunts seem effortless. He knew it was him, the result of his relentless training, his unwavering determination to overcome his weaknesses. But even with his newfound strength, he felt a nagging sense of inadequacy, a fear that he wasn't yet strong enough to escape the shadow of his past. He dodged ReAwakening's attack, the force of it sending tremors through the ground. He knew one direct hit could be disastrous. He needed to act quickly, decisively. He had to overcome not only the monster before him, but also the fear that gnawed at his resolve, the fear of failing, of reverting to his former weakness. As he evaded another attack, he recalled a conversation with his party leader, Mr. Song. Song had praised his quick thinking, his ability to solve the complex riddles that had stumped so many others, saving their lives in the process. He remembered the heartfelt gratitude of another party member, a man worried for his family, thanking Jin-Woo for keeping him alive. These memories fueled his resolve, reminding him that his strength wasn't just for himself, but for those who relied on him. He had a responsibility to protect them, to become the hunter they needed him to be. He dodged, weaved, and parried, buying himself precious seconds, his mind racing. He needed a plan, a way to exploit ReAwakening's weaknesses. He considered his options, his inventory flashing through his mind. He thought about the red quest, the significant boost it offered, but also the risk it entailed. He had gambled before, pushing himself beyond his perceived limitations, and it had paid off. He decided to trust his instincts, to embrace the risk. He activated the red quest, the surge of power, exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure. He felt stronger, faster, his senses heightened, but he knew it wasn't enough. He needed more than just raw power. He needed precision, strategy, a way to penetrate ReAwakening's formidable defenses. He thought about his nickname, Kirk, a constant reminder of his past weakness. He had been underestimated, dismissed, ignored. But he had used that to his advantage, observing, learning, honing his skills in the shadows. He had become a master of strategy, a silent predator, his strength hidden beneath a veneer of unassuming humility. He saw his opening, a brief window of vulnerability in ReAwakening's defenses. He moved, his body a blur, his movements honed by countless hours of practice. He unleashed a flurry of attacks, each one calculated, precise, aimed at exploiting the chink in ReAwakening's armor. He could feel his fatigue increasing, his energy reserves dwindling, but he pressed on, his determination unwavering. He saw ReAwakening falter, its movements slowing, its attacks becoming less precise. He knew he was close, but he also knew he couldn't afford to make a single mistake. He continued his relentless assault, his body screaming in protest, his mind focused on the task at hand. Finally, ReAwakening succumbed, its massive form collapsing, the chamber falling silent. Jin-Woo, exhausted but triumphant, stood amidst the wreckage, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The system's notification chimed, confirming his victory, but his attention was focused on the spoils of war. He examined the recycless fong, a wickedly curved dagger forged from ReAwakening's own venomous fong. It hummed with a dark energy, its power palpable. This C-class weapon was a significant upgrade, its attack power more than double his previous dagger. The residual venom promised to paralyze and weaken his foes, a cruel but effective advantage. He then examined the vial of purified recycless venom, a potent elixir that offered increased resilience at the cost of reduced strength. He carefully stored it away, a powerful tool to be used judiciously. As the dungeon reset, the oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by the familiar sounds of the city. He emerged from the dungeon, blinking in the unfamiliar sunlight, a weary warrior returning from the front lines. He was met by a bewildered soldier, his words echoing the city's collective unease. Jin-Woo, disoriented and exhausted, simply nodded. his mind already racing ahead, attuned to the subtle undercurrents of fear that permeated the city. He made his way towards the scene of the next crisis, a hulking stone golem holding a group of hunters at bay. He watched them struggle, their attacks proving ineffective against the golem's formidable defenses. He saw the fear in their eyes, the desperation in their movements. He recognized a young healer, paralyzed by trauma, her magic faltering under the pressure. He knew he had to act, not just to save them from the immediate threat, but to inspire them, to show them that fear could be overcome. He moved swiftly, silently, a phantom in the chaos. He studied the golem, identifying its weak point, a hairline fracture almost invisible to the naked eye. He channeled his remaining strength into a single, devastating blow, the recycless Fong finding its mark. The golem crumbled, its seemingly impenetrable defenses shattered by the venom's potent power. He slipped away, unnoticed, leaving the hunters to marvel at their unexpected salvation. He left behind a single, shimmering scale from the defeated recyclage, a silent message of hope for the young healer, a reminder that even the most formidable foes could be overcome. He continued his journey, a silent guardian, his power a secret, his actions speaking louder than words. He was Jin-Woo, the shadow hunter, protector of the weak, a beacon of hope in a world shrouded in darkness. Jin-Woo stumbled out of the dungeon, a weary chuckle escaping his lips. The battle against the swamp ruler, recyclage, had been a brutal test of endurance, pushing him to the very brink of his capabilities. But he had persevered, emerging victorious and undeniably stronger. The system's mechanical chime resonated in his mind, a cold, impersonal acknowledgement of his triumph. He took stock of his condition. Clothes torn to shreds, his trusty sword snapped in two, his body a throbbing canvas of aches and pains. Yet, amidst the wreckage, two glimmering prizes offered a promise of even greater power. The first was the recycless Fong, a wickedly curved dagger forged from recyclage's own venomous Fong. This C-class weapon hummed with a sinister energy, its attack power far surpassing his previous blade. The lingering venom promised to paralyze his foes and inflict a debilitating bleed effect, a ruthless efficiency that resonated with Jinwoo's increasingly pragmatic approach to combat. The second prize, a vial of purified recycless venom, offered a tantalizing trade-off, enhanced durability at the cost of reduced strength. He carefully stowed it away, a potent concoction to be unleashed only when the situation demanded it. As the dungeon reset, the unnatural silence that had pervaded the space dissipated, replaced by the familiar, chaotic symphony of the city. He stepped out of the dungeon's oppressive darkness into the blinding glare of the afternoon sun, a lone figure emerging from the depths. A soldier, startled by his sudden appearance, bombarded him with questions, his voice laced with the city's pervasive anxiety. Jin-Woo, disoriented and exhausted, simply nodded, his senses already attuned to the subtle tremors of fear that coursed through the city's veins. The city bore the visible scars of the recent gate breach. Buildings were scarred and broken, streets deserted, a palpable tension clinging to the air. Soldiers, their faces grim, directed the ongoing evacuation, their urgent voices cutting through the unsettling quiet. Jin-Woo, a silent observer amidst the chaos, overheard fragments of worried conversations, the mundane concerns of property values interwoven with the chilling reality of a world constantly under threat. He arrived at the scene of the latest crisis, a hulking stone golem holding a group of hunters at bay. They fought with courage and determination, these E and D rank hunters, but their attacks seemed to bounce harmlessly off the golem's rock-hard exterior. Their healer, her face pale with exertion, desperately tried to maintain the flickering life force of their tank. Their magic reserves were rapidly depleting, their movements slowing, their hopes dwindling with each passing moment. Jin-Woo, watching from the shadows, recognized the familiar dance of desperation. He had been there, teetering on the edge of defeat, the icy tendrils of fear threatening to consume him. He saw that same fear mirrored in the eyes of a young healer, frozen in place, the trauma of a past encounter holding her captive. Her hands trembled, her magic faltering, the weight of responsibility threatening to crush her. He knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within his soul, that he could not remain a passive bystander. He checked his status. Level 18, the Wolf Slayer title a grim reminder of his recent trials, his strength and vitality significantly enhanced, but a crippling level of fatigue threatening to undo him. He needed a plan, a strategy to overcome the golem's seemingly impenetrable defenses, a single, perfectly executed strike that could shift the balance of power. His gaze drifted to the recycless Fong, the faint hum of venom a silent promise of potential. The hunter's situation grew increasingly dire. Their tank, his shield shattered, braced for the inevitable. Their magic reserves were almost completely exhausted, their attacks weakening, their hope flickering like a dying ember. Jin-Woo knew he had to act, and he had to act now. He moved, a ghost in the swirling dust and debris, his movements fluid and silent despite the exhaustion that weighed heavily upon him. He circled the golem, his heightened senses taking in every detail, every nuance of its movements. He searched for a weakness, a vulnerability hidden beneath its seemingly impervious exterior. And then he saw it, a hairline fracture, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye, a testament to his enhanced perception, a beacon of hope in the encroaching despair. With a deep breath, he focused the remnants of his strength, channeling it into a single, precise strike. The recycless Fong, imbued with the potent venom of the fallen swamp ruler, found its mark. The venom surged into the golem, its destructive power amplified by the accuracy of Jinwoo's attack. The monster, which had withstood the hunter's combined might, shuddered violently, its rocky hide cracking and splintering, its massive form crumbling into dust. Silence descended upon the battlefield, thick and heavy. The hunters, stunned by the sudden and unexpected turn of events, looked around in bewilderment, their eyes wide with disbelief. They hadn't witnessed Jinwoo's attack, only its devastating aftermath. Whispers of confusion rippled through their ranks, speculation about the identity of their mysterious savior, the unknown high-ranking hunter who had intervened in their darkest hour. Their voices were hushed with awe and gratitude, tinged with the lingering fear of what might have been. Jin-Woo, his purpose fulfilled, melted back into the shadows, unnoticed, a phantom in the fading light. He sought no accolades, no recognition for his deed. The knowledge that he had saved them, that he had given them a second chance, was reward enough. He left them to their bewildered gratitude, their search for a hero who chose to remain cloaked in anonymity. As he walked away, his thoughts lingered on the young healer, frozen by fear. He understood her paralysis, the lingering grip of past trauma. He knew he had to do more than just save them. He had to inspire them, to show them that fear could be overcome, that strength could be found even in the deepest darkness. He decided to leave behind a small, unassuming token, a single, iridescent scale from the defeated Reseekage, placed discreetly near the healer's feet. A silent message of hope, a testament to the power of resilience, a reminder that even the most formidable of foes could be vanquished, a symbol of the quiet strength that resided within her, waiting to be unleashed. He continued his journey, a silent guardian, his growing power a closely guarded secret, his past a fading echo in the corridors of his mind. He was Jin-Woo, the shadow hunter, his actions speaking volumes where words failed, his power a silent promise of protection. The path ahead was long and fraught with peril, but he walked it with a newfound sense of purpose, the memory of the fallen golem and the glimmer of hope in the healer's eyes bolstering his resolve. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, ready to embrace his role as the silent protector, the unseen guardian, the shadow hunter who walked among them, even if they never knew his name. He was ready to become the hero they needed, even if they never knew he existed. Jin-Woo emerged from the dungeon, battered but unbroken, a weary laugh escaping his lips. "Ha, I guess I got a bit stronger," he murmured. The system's notification chimed a stark counterpoint to the throbbing ache in his muscles. The battle with the swamp ruler, Reseekage, had been a grueling trial by fire, pushing him to the limits of his endurance. Yet, he had emerged victorious, the thrill of triumph mingling with the exhaustion that weighed heavily upon him. The system's voice announced his victory, a dispassionate declaration of his triumph over the venomous beast. "You have slain swamp ruler, blue poison fangs, Reseekage," it intoned, the words echoing in the sudden silence of the now empty chamber. He surveyed the damage. "My clothes are ruined," he observed, a wry grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. "The sword I just got is broken, Urka. My body aches a bit too." But his weariness was quickly replaced by a surge of excitement as he examined the spoils of his hard-fought victory. The first prize, a dagger crafted from a single, wickedly curved fong, pulsed with a faint, venomous luminescence. A dagger made from a fong, not bone, he noted, tracing the sharp edge with a calloused fingertip. The system identified it as the recycless fong, a C-class dagger with a plus 25 attack bonus, imbued with the lingering venom of its source, granting a chance to paralyze foes and inflict a bleed effect. The attack stat is more than twice my old dagger, he realized, his eyes widening with appreciation. And it has paralysis and bleed as well. It was a powerful weapon, a significant upgrade, but its unusual shape and balance felt awkward in his hand. A reminder that he would need to adapt his fighting style to fully utilize its potential. The second prize, a pouch containing the purified venom of ReAwakening, offered a different kind of advantage. The Recycler's Venom, an A-class potion, promised to enhance his defenses by granting him Recycler's Steel Scales, reducing physical damage taken by 20%. However, it came with a drawback, a temporary debuff to his strength, weakening his muscles. Drinking it will give you hardened skin, but will weaken your strength, the system warned. He decided to store the potion for now, a strategic reserve for future battles where defense would be paramount. As the dungeon reset, the artificial environment dissolved around him, depositing him back into the chaotic reality of Hapjam Station. Is it over? He wondered aloud, the familiar cityscape a jarring contrast to the dungeon's otherworldly environment. The station, ravaged by a recent gate breach, buzzed with activity. Soldiers directed the evacuation of civilians, their faces grim, their voices strained. Onlookers, their morbid curiosity battling with their fear, snapped photos of the destruction, their flashes illuminating the scene like macabre paparazzi. What time is it now? Who are you? How did you come out from there? A soldier barked, his surprise quickly turning to suspicion. Jin-Woo, still disoriented from the sudden transition, patiently explained that he was a hunter, emerging from the dungeon after completing his mission. Didn't you hear the broadcast? He asked, gesturing towards the flashing lights and emergency vehicles. The soldier, after a moment of stunned silence, finally understood and guided Jin-Woo towards the command post. Looks like a gate open nearby, Jin-Woo observed, surveying the scene of devastation. Did the monsters come over? He inquired, his senses already picking up on a lingering presence, a palpable aura of menace emanating from the heart of the ravaged district. Nearby monsters have been taken care of, the soldier replied, his voice grim, leaving one big monster left. Jin-Woo nodded, his gaze fixed on the distant, hulking form of the remaining creature. Maybe due to my sense. I can feel it, he murmured, a shiver running down his spine. That's the bus, he realized, his eyes widening in recognition. He arrived at the scene of the ongoing battle, a chaotic tableau of flashing lights, panicked shouts, and the deafening roar of the monstrous creature. Please don't take photos. Please leave quickly, the soldiers yelled, desperately trying to control the crowd and maintain order amidst the chaos. What a mess, Jin-Woo muttered, shaking his head at the sight of the destruction. Please evacuate, a soldier shouted, his voice amplified by a megaphone. That's a lot of damage, Jin-Woo observed, his mind racing, calculating the potential cost of the devastation. What if the land value drops? A bystander worried aloud, his voice a jarring counterpoint to the gravity of the situation. Healers, please heal the tank, a hunter shouted, his voice strained. We are trying our best, came the desperate reply. What are the damage dealers doing? Another hunter demanded, his frustration evident. It's not budging, its defense is too high, came the grim response. Unfortunately, we don't have many magicians, someone observed, their voice laced with despair. Is it because they were called out on short notice? Another wondered. Jin-Woo listened to the hunter's increasingly desperate pleas, his heart heavy with empathy. He recognized the signs of a losing battle, the dwindling hope, the creeping despair. He knew he couldn't stand idly by, not when so many lives were at stake. He checked his status. Level 18, the Wolf Slayer title a mark of his growing power, his strength and vitality significantly enhanced, but his fatigue level dangerously high. He needed a plan, a way to overcome the creature's formidable defenses. He thought of the Recycless Fong, its venomous properties, its potential to inflict debilitating effects. He knew what he had to do. He moved, a silent shadow in the chaos, his enhanced agility allowing him to weave through the battlefield unnoticed. He approached the monstrous creature, its rocky hide impervious to the hunter's attacks. He studied its movements, searching for a weakness, a vulnerability in its defenses. He found it, a small fissure, almost invisible to the naked eye, a testament to his heightened senses. He knew this was his chance. With a deep breath, he channeled his remaining strength, focusing all his energy into a single, devastating throw. The Recycless Fong, imbued with ReAwakening's venom, whistled through the air, striking the creature's weak point with pinpoint accuracy. The effect was instantaneous. The monster shuddered, its rocky hide cracking and splitting, the fissures spreading rapidly until its entire form crumbled into dust. "We did it!" a hunter cried out, his voice filled with disbelief and relief. "We beat it!" another shouted, their cheers echoing through the ravaged streets. But as the dust settled, confusion replaced their jubilation. "What? The attacks didn't work at all until a while ago. But it suddenly collapsed," one hunter observed, his brow furrowed in confusion. "No, our attacks did nothing," another confirmed. "What was that flew in just then? Is that what made it fall down? What in the world blew up this rock's head?" a hunter wondered, staring at the remnants of the defeated creature. "A boss, and that could withstand attacks from 10 hunters, was defeated by this?" another exclaimed, holding up the discarded recycless fong, its venomous glow dimming. "Just who?" The hunters searched for their mysterious savior, their eyes scanning the crowd, their voices hushed with awe. "Excuse me," one hunter called out. "Yes?" Jin-Woo replied, stepping out of the shadows, his face impassive. "Are you talking to me? Did you see who threw this?" the hunter asked, holding up the dagger. "Ah, the hunter over there, huh?" Another hunter pointed towards the spot where Jin-Woo had been standing moments before. "There was a hunter right there a moment ago," he confirmed. "That strength, that destructiveness, was he a high-ranked hunter?" Jin-Woo, his identity still unknown, slipped away, a silent guardian watching over the city from the shadows. He was the hunter who walked in darkness, his power a secret, his actions a legend. And as he disappeared into the night, the system displayed his status. Level 18, the Wolf Slayer title, his strength, vitality, agility, intelligence, and sense all significantly enhanced. He had no remaining points to allocate, but he knew, with a quiet confidence, that he was growing stronger with each passing day, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. He was Jin-Woo, the Shadow Hunter, and his journey had just begun. The air hung heavy with unspoken tension. We stood before the imposing gate, a colossal structure that dwarfed even the most seasoned hunter. It pulsed with a faint, ethereal glow, a silent testament to the immense magical energy contained within. My companion, a man of few words, shifted the heavy bag he carried, a stark contrast to his usual quiet demeanor. The weight of the bag, however, wasn't just literal. It represented the burden of a failing construction project, the disappearance of its wealthy owner who absconded with 9 billion won just 2 weeks prior, leaving workers and investors struggling in his wake. He explained this to me with an unnerving calmness. "It seems Jianji isn't doing well lately," he stated, his voice a low murmur against the backdrop of the looming gate. I asked why he was telling me all this. His response was a quiet concern for my well-being. "Isn't that bag heavy? Will you be all right?" His concern was unexpected, a small crack in his normally reserved facade. I assured him it was manageable, attributing my strength to something beyond mere physical ability. He smiled faintly, then remarked on my unusual quietness, a comment that felt pointed despite the casual tone. I retorted that perhaps he was the one doing too much talking. His response was a heartbreaking confession. "People never really took notice of me." The statement hung in the air, heavy and poignant. He continued, revealing a part of himself. "Being a hunter is my hobby." It was a simple explanation, yet it hinted at a life lived quietly, overshadowed, with hunting as a solitary pursuit. Then, we were there. The imposing guild stood before us, a vast building that was more monumental than the gate we had just approached. My companion, however, seemed surprised by the scale of the entrance, questioning whether this was truly a C-rank gate. He seemed doubtful of the guild's trustworthiness, its sheer size feeling off, inappropriate for a C-rank gate. I reassured him, drawing on my experience, explaining that while the size was unusual, it didn't necessarily indicate anything untoward. The quality of the magical energy emanating from within was the true determinant of a gate's rank, and C-rank gates were generally considered less hazardous. This was, I learned, his first time at a C-rank gate. I took the lead, instructing the others to follow. We entered, and immediately, an unsettling silence enveloped us. The darkness was profound, absolute, a stark contrast to the typical dungeon, usually peppered with luminous stones. The absence of monsters was equally unnerving. My companion, a seasoned hunter despite his D-rank status, was taken aback. He mentioned how unusual this was. Typically, even in dark dungeons, monsters could survive. Their absence implied intelligence and a reliance on something other than sight. It was this realization that gave the experience a chilling undertone. Then, the subtle sound began. A rustling, chittering, growing ever closer. A collective gasp escaped our lips. The first signs of insects began to appear. Insects aren't typically a threat at a C-rank gate, but the sheer volume and the unsettling silence before their appearance were alarming. Then we saw them. Countless insects swarming from the ceiling, a wave of chittering bodies descending upon us. We were clearly ambushed. This was a coordinated attack, not the typical random encounters of other dungeons. The darkness was used as a weapon, the insects a terrible surprise. We fought back, using magic to repel and control them. A synchronized dance of light and shadow. Our teamwork honed over many hunts together. The team was surprisingly well-equipped and practiced for a group supposedly lacking a healer. Their coordination was astonishing. As the battle raged, numbers flickered into existence. Counters of the insects we dispatched, evidence of the precision and ferocity of our engagement. The fight was intense, yet coordinated. We worked as one unit, utilizing our skills to neutralize the threat. Amidst the chaos, I noticed something peculiar about the fallen insects. Their wounds weren't from our weapons or magic, but appeared to be bite marks, suggesting a pre-existing conflict. I quickly made the connection. These insects weren't just attacking us. Their injuries suggested a battle amongst themselves, implying a more significant, more dangerous presence. This new information sent chills down my spine. After the battle, the chilling realization dawned upon us. The injuries sustained by the insects weren't caused by our team. We hadn't inflicted those wounds. They were bite marks. They were injured before they attacked us, engaged in a territorial dispute. This meant there was something stronger than these insects, a larger predator, a boss monster waiting in the shadows. It was a terrifying revelation, a shift in the dynamic of the hunt. This also implied, however, that this dungeon was far more lucrative than we had initially anticipated. My companion's equipment stood out, clearly superior to his D-rank status. The expensive sword and shield he carried were a testament to his father's support. This made him stand out even more. His father had invested in his first raid, reflecting a silent hope and trust in his abilities. This raised a number of questions. What was his family's relationship to this unexpected find? We were successful in the battle. Everyone was accounted for. A sense of accomplishment filled the air, however, overshadowed by the ominous discovery of the insects' injuries. The discovery of the pre-existing conflict amongst the insects was a significant turning point. We now knew that there was a higher threat lurking within the dungeon, something far more dangerous than we had anticipated. The thrill of the hunt intensified, mixed with a growing sense of unease. The adventure wasn't over. In fact, it had just begun. The mystery surrounding the boss monster, the unusual size of the gate, and the wealth hidden within the dungeon, combined with my partner's quiet intensity and his unexpected confession about not having ever received much notice, created a layered story that turned from a simple hunt into a gripping tale of mystery, suspense, and the unpredictable nature of adventure. The ominous feeling of the ending only confirmed this. The hunt was not over. It was only just beginning. The crisp air hung heavy with anticipation. Jin-Ho, a young hunter embarking on his first C-rank dungeon raid, nervously adjusted his expensive equipment, a gift from his proud father. The sword and shield, gleaming under the dim light, were a stark contrast to his apprehensive demeanor. His experienced companion, whose name we never learn, nodded, acknowledging the quality of the gear. "Yes, oh," he said quietly, "your father certainly spared no expense. Hearing this was your first raid." The weight of expectation seemed palpable. A sudden change in the atmosphere. The unspoken tension escalated. A strange warning emerged from his experienced companion. "I'm not sure, but you should be wary." "What is this?" A palpable dread hung in the air, described simply as this bad feeling. The dungeon, they explained, was a labyrinth. Its size, they noted, varied greatly depending on the circumstances, taking sometimes weeks to fully map out, sometimes only hours to reach the final chamber. This particular dungeon, however, proved to be more of a maze than a straightforward path, a prolonged exploration rather than a rapid series of encounters. His role was largely logistical, a baggage carrier, allowing him to participate in the financial gains without engaging in the direct combat. To be able to earn money without fighting, he mused, I thought it was a decent deal. Yet, the unease remained, a silent premonition that something was amiss. A cryptic warning came next: beware of lizards. The reason for the warning remained shrouded in mystery, yet a conviction echoed. My bad premonitions were never wrong. The tension ratcheted up. Silence stretched, a palpable shift in the dungeon's atmosphere. Hours passed. The group encountered not the expected lively monsters, but only the aftermath, corpses and monsters in their death throes. The typical dungeon layout felt utterly absent, making this quest more unsettling. The absence of a central boss seemed increasingly suspicious. There should have been one. That's what defines a dungeon. The discovery shook the group. It was clear something was severely out of order. If there's no boss, the gate wouldn't be open, one hunter commented. His experienced partner immediately agreed. But then, another discovery changed everything. A beam of light illuminated a previously hidden area. A collective gasp of awe and horror filled the space. "My God," someone whispered. It wasn't just any room. They had discovered a massive hoard of crystals, far more than the typical dungeon yield. These, they explained, weren't the magically charged crystals obtained from slain monsters. These were far more different. This was a literal mountain of mana crystals, their low energy content usually rendering them less valuable. But in this sheer quantity, they were a prize beyond imagination. Their value was staggering. Just looking at them, one hunter estimated, they should fetch over 1 billion won. The sheer volume exceeded all expectations. It was incredible. It was also a profound mystery. However, amongst the jubilation, tension resurfaced. The quiet, reserved hunter observed a discordant note. "Hey," he said, his voice low but firm. "In this situation, you shouldn't talk so lightly about his younger brother." The reference was to the team leader, Hwang Dong-suk, whose journey had involved a move to America, seemingly for the sake of financial gain. His success in America made him seem detached from his past, even from his family. The quiet hunter seemed bitter and resentful at this. The young hunter had made a deal. It was clear that the distribution of these mana crystals wasn't going to be straightforward. A dispute erupted. The quiet hunter pointed out an inconsistency in Jin-Woo's contract, noting that the agreement only specified the division of monster-drop crystals, not this extraordinary trove of mana crystals. The discrepancy was clear. The leader, Hwang Dong-suk, attempted to deflect, suggesting that the distribution would, naturally, be even. The quiet hunter wasn't convinced. He highlighted the necessity of mining and transporting the crystals quickly before the dungeon's gate, which closed after the defeat of the dungeon's boss. The spider sealed the treasure within the labyrinth forever. The spider, however, seemed dormant. It had clearly devoured a massive amount of food. Therefore, this was a fleeting opportunity. The quiet hunter then revealed a significant oversight. They had left all their mining equipment in the car. His frustration was evident, berating his partner for his lack of preparedness. The necessity to retrieve the gear became immediately apparent. The group decided to split up. 2 hunters, selected to remain and guard the treasure trove against any sudden attack from the slumbering boss. The young hunter, along with his partner, are tasked with a dangerous mission, venturing out of the boss's lair to retrieve the equipment and face a high risk of waking the spider. The younger hunter pressed the importance of leaving the crystals undisturbed, emphasizing the boss spider's unusual state of dormancy, implying that an unprovoked attack was unlikely. However, he also highlighted a significant regulation. C-rank gates required at least 10 hunters, while this team, consisting of only 8, was defying the regulations. The experienced hunter explained their practice of operating without a healer, pointing out the rarity of such healers in personal attack squads. This pointed to a high level of experience, skill, and trust between the hunters. Their operation was clearly exceptional. The quiet hunter concluded their conversation with a simple statement, "Trust my words." Then, the conversation turned to the ominous implication of their loud conversation, potentially attracting the attention of the sleeping boss monster. The experienced hunter's response suggested a level of confidence, implying they were well aware of this risk yet proceeding anyway. The unspoken tension of this raid continues to escalate, highlighting the precarious balance between opportunity and danger. The mission to retrieve the equipment has a high level of risk. The story doesn't end here. The ending leaves us with a haunting sense of foreboding and the expectation of a gripping confrontation to come.